Plague Marines are one of the strongest Death Guard units and certainly their strongest troop choice in terms of resilience, melee, and also firepower. Which is why in today's video I'm going to be going over the best tactics on how to best use and optimize Plague Marines in your list. Now, first of all, I would like to talk about melee because this is one of the Plague Marines' key qualities, is that they are ridiculously strong in melee. So in a squad of 5, you can give up to 2 Plague Marines a Flail of Corruption. Now, this is the same no matter the size of the squad. This is part of the reason why you often want minimum sized squads. But as you can see, up to 2 Plague Marines can each replace their Bolt Gun with either Great Plague Khalifa or a Flail of Corruption. Now, the reason why the Flail of Corruption is very good and possibly even one of the best weapons in the game is because it puts out lots of attacks, does lots of damage, and is suitable to really any scenario and against any sort of unit. Now, this is because it puts out D3 attacks per attack, and when you're charging, that's 2 attacks per Plague Marine. So for each one of these, that's effectively an average of at least 4 attacks. More if you have Dark Imperium, because then, Death of the False Emperor, because then for each hit roll of 6, you get an extra D3 attacks, which is quite a large amount. And then this is strength +2, so strength 6 or strength, or maybe high if you've got psychic powers and whatnot. So that sort of wounds anything really on any. It wounds anything well. It wounds light infantry on 2s and then heavy tanks on 4s or 5s, which is really good for a weapon that is held by an infantry. AP2, really nice. There aren't going to be many saves that are going to stop the majority of its attacks, and most importantly is it does 2 damage, but the damage can carry over from one model to the next model, so you don't have a problem of any damage being wasted. It will kill a hull quite quickly, but then it will also do lots of damage to a tank and also heavy infantry, which is why the Flail of Corruption is certainly an extremely strong weapon. And although it is often used a lot on Terminators, and of course I've got a video about the best tactics for Terminators, which is in the top right corner right now. You need a lot more Terminators, a lot more points worth of Terminators per Flail of Corruption than Plague Marines. And in addition, if combined with the Foul Blightspawn, which means that when you're charged, you fight as if you didn't charge. And what this effectively means in 9th edition is when you are charged, you can fight first while you choose what to fight, then they choose what to fight, etc. So as soon as you've got a Foul Blightspawn near these, you're fighting first with a weapon, probably two of your Plague Marines having Flail of Corruptions, so approximately 8 attacks with a really strong weapon doing lots of damage, and effectively it can mean that you're untouchable in melee. I was playing against someone, they were going to bring Harlequins to play against me, but then they realised, well, that's a melee army. As soon as I charge him, I'll be dead before I'm able to fight back. So there's literally no way of beating it by another melee army unless you have excessive amounts of melee units, but even then it's going to be massively damaging because the Plague Marines can take a lot of hits to them because of course they have quite good stats. They have T5, 2-up save, they also have disgustingly resilient, and then of course you will often be either near Mephitic Blighthauler, which will give them cover, make the save a 2-up, or you might use psychic power to make them -1 to hit, or to make them +1 strength and toughness, which makes the Plague Marines quite hard to kill. And if you've got like 3 squads of 5 of these, each with some Flail of Corruptions and maybe some Blight Launchers, which I'm going to get into in a second, then it's going to be very hard to kill and do a lot of damage, and ultimately not that expensive. Having 5 of these with 2 Flail of Corruptions is only 120 points, so you can use that as your troops unit quite easily with lots of other stuff for combat patrol. Actually, I did a video where I talked about having that exact unit in a combat patrol of my perfect, well, not quite perfect, but probably one of the best Death Guard combat patrols and how to build one. That's also going to be in the top right corner right now. I found it's certainly very useful. You should definitely check it out. And this basically means that also in a large list, you can put quite a few squads of them, and they are going to be very deadly. And also in terms of resilience, if you are Mortarian's chosen sons, you can have them near a Plague Surgeon, which is an elite that doesn't cost many points, only 65 points, and then all disgusting resilience for your infantry within 3 inches of that gets to re-roll the disgusting resilience of 1 and 2, which is of course extremely effective because that means effectively a third of them you can re-roll, and you're going to be saving a large amount of extra wounds to a point that where the 5-up feel no pain becomes effectively a 4-up feel no pain. 50% of wounds don't go through if you do the maths, which is extremely good and effectively gives these Plague Marines 2 wounds already, and that's of course before in the next update where they are actually going to get 2 wounds, and then with the Codex this is going to be even more overpowered. So I would certainly recommend having that with the Plague Marines, although it's only Plague Marines within 3 inches. You can combine that with one of the Death Guard relics that expands all auras by 3 inches, so that would effectively make them 6 inches. And as for ranged attacks, you can have up to 2 Plague Marines replace their bolt guns with Blight launchers, and although there are a few other options, I personally either put Blight launchers or plasma guns. You can also give the champion a plasma gun or power fist. I think if you are using these for melee, a power fist is a decent idea, although again it has gone up in points and you are only hitting on 4s with 2 or 3 attacks, so it's not the best. I would personally save the points and spend them on Flail of Corruptions. But for ranged, the Blight launchers are quite good because you get 24-inch range. You can advance and fire without penalty because they're assault weapons, and you've got the special Death Guard ability, which means that it is a viable strategy to fill a squad of 7, 8, or 9 of these and have 1 or 2 Blight launchers and also 2 Flare of the Corruptions, because then they can move quite quickly with advancing and firing, have some firepower, and also be strong in melee, while also being very resilient, which of course helps the Plague Marines to be even more useful. And 6 2d3 is decent. Like the Blight Launchers, it's not the best stat line ever, but it's not going to be bad. And combined with Arch Contaminator, both the Blight Launcher and the Flail of Corruption will get to reroll all fail wound rolls because they are Plague Marines, which will ultimately make them even better. So it's a point where when you add these up, and even if it's just having a Mephitic Blightholder to give them cover and Arch Contaminator to reroll wound rolls, the Blight launchers and Flail of Corruptions can do a lot of damage, and it's going to be a pain to kill these Plague Marines, which is why it's also quite viable to build a list around Plague Marines, around, like, you can say, I'll build my list around 3 squads of 7 Plague Marines, they'll have 1 Blight launcher and 2 Flail of Corruptions, just made that up on the spot, but that would of course again be quite a decent idea. And when you are in the smaller games, you can use psychic powers like that will also buff these. I think most importantly, of course, making them -1 to hit will certainly be a good idea. And plus from strength and toughness is really neat because not only does it make them more resilient, making them be tough 6, but it also means that the Flail of Corruptions go up from strength 6 to strength 7, and the Plague Knives, which is what the other Plague Marines will be using as their weapon, the default weapon, will go up from strength 4 to strength 5, so it'll make them more easy to wound most models like Marines, and even possibly be able to get a tiny bit of damage to the more tough Terminators or Custodians, which is why they are also quite good to make it strength 5, toughness 5, and combined with all these buffs you can make the Plague Marine certainly a viable unit. Of course, also with a Demon Prince or Chaos Lord, you can re-roll hit rolls of 1s, and you can make these super useful units, as I said. So that's probably pretty much about it for today's video. I would certainly recommend bringing Plague Marines over Poxwalkers and Chaos Cultists for your infantry. So make sure to like and subscribe. I do hope you enjoyed. And also turn on notifications because I'm going to be putting out videos as soon as there's any more news on the new Death Guard Codex. So hope you enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe. But for now, bye.